to the topic. My challenge is we've only got 45 minutes, yeah, or thereabouts. And yeah, when I make a drink, especially when I'm explaining it, it might take an hour, but we'll keep hyper focused here. All right, so when it comes to brain health, focus, memory, sleep, hormone balance, beauty, the skin, the gut health, I like to say there's an elixir for that. Yeah, whatever you got going, there is an elixir for that. Maybe you're waking up, you got a big day, you got to focus, you got to be on your game. There's an elixir for that. You get home after a long, crazy, intense day, you just need to chill out. There's an elixir for that. Feeling a little scratching the throat, under the weather. There's an elixir for that. What is an elixir? It sounds very kind of fancy and mysterious. I'll break it down. I lay no claim of what is an elixir or what is not an elixir, but very simply I define it as an alchemical vehicle for the delivery of food and medicine. So have you ever heard that tenet, the famous Hippocrates quote, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food? This is the practical, tangible approach to that, where you can literally, I was actually working with a number of years ago, a functional medicine doctor. He'd heard about Light Cellar, he was sending some of his clients there, and he's like, Malcolm, this Elixirs, he's like, I think I finally got it. He's like, it's kind of like my superfood smoothie and my bulletproof coffee together in one. I'm like, yeah, not literally, but yes, in concept. So take your coffee, right? Whether you drink coffee or not, right? What do we reach for coffee for? It's that grab and go drink, give us energy in the morning, elevate our state of mind. In the smoothie, it's that grab and go nutrients for the day. So an elixir kind of brings that together. So it's the best in modern nutrition with ancient herbal wisdom. And I want to really simplify food and nutrition for you. This is the basis of what the store's all about. It turns out the 4 food groups. Not the ones you learned in school, though. How helpful were those? Not very helpful. But every single culture around the world actually consumes 4 food groups throughout time, throughout history. And so as I rate these up, you tell me if you can think of anything outside of these 4 food groups. All right. And we could maybe generalize these as the kingdoms of life. I know there's technically 6 and these aren't them, but okay, the 4 kingdoms. This is what I call the natural food guide, the ancestral food guide. We got plants. We have animals. We have bacteria, and we have fungi. That's what humans eat. We are omnivores. And what I love about this natural food guide doesn't tell you what to eat, how much to eat, or when to eat. That's the individual journey for us to explore. And if you think about maybe just within a day or within a week, hey, did I get one of these 4 food groups in? Get them all in. For a number of years, I really heavily emphasized on plants. I went down the whole rabbit hole of being a vegetarian, a vegan, a raw vegan. I was on my way to becoming a breatharian. No, I wasn't. I was struggling. And then took a shift, took a turn. It was more than a decade being vegetarian. And for a while, I was into yoga. This idea of, you pursue yoga for these high states of consciousness, omnipotence, omnipresence. I was like, wait a minute, omnivore. That's the highest state of being and eating, isn't it? And so, you don't have to eat broccoli and kale, right? If we think about the plant kingdom and everything that it offers, huge, massive abundance. So the key takeaway here is, as you consume foods from each 4 of these kingdoms, you want to think about, the highest quality, think about the diversity, really deeply expanding into what it offers. You might have heard that idea of eating the rainbow, the Roy G. Biv, black, white, brown. Every color is an indication of nutrition, right? These antioxidants, these phytonutrients. So eating the rainbow is kind of a nice key takeaway from the plant kingdom, as well as herbs. And this is where we're going to bring that practicality of elixirs together. We're going to tap into, every single culture around the world has a herbal practice, a herbal knowledge. And it's just our modern culture that we've kind of become disconnected from that. So you can become your own herbalist. Yeah, and begin to work with plants in a very supportive way for everything that we covered off. With animal foods, this doesn't mean that you need to eat chicken breast or steaks or anything, right? It includes even insects, so honey or bee pollen might be something that you're into. It's nose to tail. It is, appropriate biological diet for the animal. Husbandry, right? To really actually care for the animals that are going to be your food, if you so choose. Bacteria. What do I mean by bacteria?
Microbiome.
Yeah, for sure. Microbiome, probiotics, this kind of a thing. Every single culture around the world consumes fermented foods with live culture bacteria, 100%. And then fungi, yes, includes mushrooms, but also yeast, single-celled yeast, can be involved in fermentation, but can also just be delicious on its own. Right? As you were experiencing growing mushrooms during the pandemic, took on an extra hobby. Awesome, I love it. Cool, so that'll be our foundation. We'll get into it. I'm gonna give you a recipe template. You've got a recipe book that literally, the Elixir bar out there was a book I wrote, and all the recipes kind of started there. Each has kind of evolved. Our staff is amazing for coming up with new ones all the time. And yeah, recipes, it's kind of funny that I've written 2 recipe books now, but I actually don't follow recipes. Anybody else relate to that? It's like, I'm more what you call an intuitive chef. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? Bringing things together. And especially when you know how to put something together, right? Like soups, salad dressings, like, do you still need a recipe? Smoothies? No, you just kind of wing it, right? You get the idea, you get the concept. So I want to teach you the concept of how to build an elixir. And then you can use whatever you have on hand, whatever you're inspired by, for what I call, this is the key to alchemy. There's 3 keys to alchemy. So whether I'm creating a product or teaching something, I want to think about 3 things, which is flavor. Number 1, right? Obviously, it's got to taste good. This is not the 1980s where we're trying to stuff Bulgar wheat down our throats because it's good for us, but it doesn't taste good. We can have health food and taste at the same time. So flavor, number 1, right? Next would be function. You heard of functional nutrition? Like I mentioned, that guy back in the day, like functional medicine doctor, right? What do you want this drink to do for you? Right? What's going on in your day? What do you need support with? Think about the function, and then is there a particular feeling that you're after? So flavor, function, feeling. You can think about it intellectually, but really it just comes. It's intuitive. The more you learn about herbs, about nutrition, it all comes together. So I'm going to teach a template. Somebody in this room is going to make the drink. I'm not going to make it, right? If I make it, you're like, well, he's written a book on it and da-da-da-da-da. But if you make it, I don't even know what you're going to make. We've got some ideas. We'll let the group choose, and you can play. You can have fun and just see how easy and wonderful this is. So I won't call up a volunteer yet, but if you are like stoked, excited, get your hand ready. But yeah. Here's our base. Here's our template. So these are beverages. So it's going to be liquid based. And, first ingredient is water. And again, what I love about templates is that you can use whatever you have access to, right? So if you're really into spring water, awesome. There's an amazing website, by the way. Has anyone ever, I know like we were chatting about like foraging and wild foods. Has anybody ever drank wild water?
Yeah, like glacier water.
Right?
From Athabasca Glacier.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, like it's unbelievable. It will change your life to drink water coming straight out of the ground, wild water. It just goes right into you. You could drink like a gallon and like shake up and down and it's like, where did it go? It just like straight into you. Let's be honest, I am a bit of a water snob. I was gonna say I used to be a water snob, but part of it's just experience, right? And your body knows, like, I'm really into this idea of intuitive eating, right? If you had that experience of eating a carrot right out of the ground, apple off the tree, strawberry off the plant, like nothing compares, right? It's like your body knows from the flavor, the energetics, everything is like, wow, that's the goods. So it is with water. So there's a website called findaspring.com. So you could be traveling to Europe next week and you're like, I'm really into spring water. Where should I go find some spring water, right? Fresh, straight out of the ground. You could be going to the mountains over the weekend. You're like, I know, I've heard there's one in Canmore. I've heard there's one in Banff. I'm gonna go check those ones out. Yeah, have a taste of wild water. But maybe you're just into filtered water. That's awesome. Maybe you're just into tap water. That's all good too. There's that saying though, get a filter or become a filter. I never want to make people feel bad about what they consume, so it's all good. I say, like, I'm borderline water snob. Like, we have amazing, beautiful tap water here in Calgary. Like, and just go to Florida if you think otherwise, right? Or Las Vegas, or London, England, or anywhere else where it's like just the contrast. So super grateful for the water that we have, and I still like to filter it. Yeah, especially when we talk about microbiome, right? What does chlorine do? It kills, it sterilizes. It doesn't stop in the tap. So, yeah, filtered water can be awesome. So whatever water you have, you're going to work with the base, and then you're going to choose a herb. What herb? What do you mean herbs? Flavor, function, feeling. Do you know what the most commonly consumed herb in the world is? Anybody want to take a guess? Oregano, that's a really good guess. Yeah, that's got to be up there, right? Yeah, I mean, think about the cuisine and like everywhere. But this one is like, some people will even consume it like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. Herb. Yeah. What did you say? I didn't hear you. Oh, marijuana. Yeah. It could be, for sure. Yeah. Coffee. Actually, no, it's tea. Yeah, if you think about it. Sorry, coffee's number 2, tea is number 1. Yeah, tea, Camellia sinensis, as like black tea, green tea, matcha, all these different forms, 100%. Like I've got a British ancestry. I didn't never think of like, that's a herb, right? That's herbalism. But it totally is, right? What's the difference between a food and a herb? Yeah, well, a herb is something you would take to kind of like alter your physiology that doesn't have, calories or vitamins and minerals. Like if we take classic example of a food, right? Apple, you've heard that phrase, apple a day keeps the doctor away. Do you know that was marketing? That was propaganda. You know how apples were consumed before that came on the scene? They were juiced, fermented, turned into booze, and drank as hard cider. And it was the temperance movement that came up with this campaign of like, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. They wanted you to eat the apples, not juice them into booze and drink it. Yeah, so anyways, apple, classic, right? Food, value, vitamins, minerals, calories, amazing. Like, apples are great. On the other end of the spectrum, have you ever heard of echinacea? Right? Just as one example, right? Echinacea, you're not consuming it as a food. It's not a breakfast, you're not getting calories from it. Some herbs you will get vitamins and minerals, but it's playing a different role. It's like, okay, I want to boost my immune system, or I want to, tame inflammation, or whatever. You're taking it for a different reason. So to me, that's kind of the difference between a food and a herb. But there's something in between. This is what I define as a superfood. I know that's such a marketing term. It gets thrown around like blueberries, superfood, broccoli is a superfood. I come from a background, I'll quote my father. He says, I do not believe in herbs. Okay, I didn't know if it was a matter of belief, but all right. Raised on total standard American diet. I love Pop-Tarts, grilled cheese, breakfast cereals, Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms, all that kind of stuff. That's how I was raised. And it wasn't until I was 16 that I shifted my perspective around food and nutrition, and then tried to figure it all out for myself. And it's been a long time, let me tell you. So I love to just trying to be able to simplify it. You don't need to go down all these rabbit holes. You don't need to complicate your life. You don't need to stress yourself out. Food can be delicious, nourishing, and totally enjoyable. But when it came to herbs, that was something even as I was getting into nutrition, I had a friend that was really into herbs. And I'd kind of put the distinction on. It's like, okay, yep, he's going to be a herbalist. His dad's a herbalist. He's going to school for herbalism, and I'm going to choose nutrition, and that's going to be my path. And I didn't really allow myself to kind of dabble into that until, some mentors, some friends of mine were like, no, you can be your own herbalist, right? Like, this is basic. This is like simple stuff. It's like, of course, you're not going to like, be someone else's herbalist. Like, I don't sit down and prescribe herbs to anybody, in that way. But, I learn and I share and incorporate it in my life. But growing up, sleepy time chamomile tea was maybe the only herb or herbalism in that way that come across. And it's all just been growing and integrating. So when you choose a herb, which could be coffee, you're going to think about flavor, function, feeling. Could be peppermint. If we talk about, some of the different herbs one can choose based upon what we just kind of listed as some of the ideas, right? So hormone balance, I mentioned about pine pollen. Amazing for both men and women. There's another one called shatavari, and sometimes I like to, anchor into these tag phrases, these little like lines that will give you insight into, what a herb might be and all about. You know what the little tagline for shatavari is? For she who has 100 husbands, it is both soothing and calming. Kind of get an idea of what that's all about, right? Or maybe you've heard of ashwagandha. Ashwagandha translates to the strength and stamina of the stallion. Oh, yeah, okay, strength. Oh, take some of that, yeah. So, depending what you're after, you can choose your own herb. And so this is kind of where that medicinal side. Remember I said it's like about bringing your morning coffee and your smoothie together? So that's the herbal side. Best in modern nutrition and ancient herbal wisdom. Now, we're going to bring in, and at this point, this is just a tea. Teas are great, teas are amazing, but now we're going to build in that food element. So next we're going to add some kind of a fat. Yeah, any kind of fat that you want, that you're into. We're going to be using coconut, but you could use butter. This idea of like, you've heard of like bulletproof coffees, or my friend calls it butterproof. Putting in the butter. What does fat do for you in a drink? Absolutely, yeah. So it's very nourishing, for the brain, for energy, right? Instead of getting stored as fat, it can get burned as energy. Totally, helps satiate you, right? You feel like full. It's like, okay, it's not just a tea. It's like, I got some substance here. We got some calories. We got some vitamins. We got some minerals. We got some nourishment. It helps kind of like round out the beverage as well. But depending on the herb, like think about the difference between black coffee and a little bit of cream into it, right? It just like, it just kind of like rounds it a little bit. It's not, maybe not quite as a spike in jitteriness. So we're going to add in the fat element, and then next we're going to choose some sort of a sweetener. And that's because Mary Poppins gave us that wonderful wisdom. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? Makes it more palatable. That's emphasize of that flavor. Plus, too, depending on the sweetener that you use, like I love honey, right? Now, this is where I went off on a tangent. I was going to come back to that. We had food, medicine, there's something in between. Honey, is it a food or a medicine? It's both. Nettles, is it a food or a medicine? Both. Pine pollen, is it a food or a medicine? It can be both, absolutely. Goji berries, right? You can actually just eat them like a raisin. Vitamins, minerals, calories, etc. Also, you could be prescribed by a Chinese doctor to take goji berries. Food and medicine, it's one and the same. So this is what I call a superfood, right? It's something that embodies both. Super in the fact that, yeah, it's got maybe, extraordinary high amounts of particular nutrients, maybe unique, novel compounds that aren't found in other foods. That to me is what defines a superfood. And if apples are super to you or lettuce is super to you, like awesome, go for it. But what I've noticed, like I could make this whole lecture to tell you to eat more lettuce, to eat more greens and apples and blueberries and these kinds of things. And okay, it might inspire you. You might, adopt a new habit. But what I've seen over and over again is just incorporating this idea of adding in. People are like, oh, I had a friend, we almost nicknamed her Goji, because every time we saw her, she was like eating goji berries. She's like, yeah, I just can't get enough. Something about these things in my body. And it was like months later, all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, like, where's the gojis? She's like, oh yeah, I guess I haven't had those for a couple weeks. Like intuitively, like her body just got what she needed. She moved on, she found something else, so that experientially, like these superfoods, they really they can shift. You're like, oh wow, I feel that, right? And that's the inspiration, is adding these things in versus like, does it ever work to like, don't do this, don't eat that? Yeah, the whole classic, don't think of a purple elephant. What's the first thing you do? Think of a purple elephant. But if you've got an alternative, if you've got something you can add in that really inspires you, that just kind of like crowds out the bad, it's like one of the reasons we make chocolate. Chocolate's actually a superfood. Yeah. You know that they can never make chocolate illegal? Even though it contains certain compounds in it that, if isolated, would be illegal. There's a molecule in there called anandamide, which is known as the bliss molecule. Fits into your THC receptor sites. And for those that are into yoga, yeah, ananda means bliss. It's a natural mood elevator, right? We often will self-medicate with chocolate. Maybe we're looking for magnesium. We're looking for a little stress release. We're looking for mood elevation. So chocolate, it's kind of a silly question. Everything that you've ever heard about the good health benefits of chocolate, is it in the cacao bean or the Hershey's bar? Right? Yeah. So my whole goal is like, okay, how can we get as close to the cacao bean as possible, but still something that we are familiar with, that we can enjoy, that we can be inspired about, we can feel good about feeding ourselves and our children.
So why can't they make it illegal?
There's certain compounds in it that, if isolated, would technically be illegal. It's chemically one of the most complex foods on earth. There's more than like 4,500 different chemical components in cacao, in chocolate, so much so that they've never been able to synthesize the flavor. So like artificial vanilla, artificial strawberry, banana, they've done it. Chocolate, you can't synthesize it. It's too complex. Yeah. Okay, sweetener. I go off on tangents. This is why it takes me an hour to make a drink. And I love the questions too, so feel free. So yeah, choose your own adventure. I love honey, I love maple syrup, I love different things like that. If you're into kind of low glycemic or no glycemic, maybe you've heard of stevia or monk fruit, that kind of a thing. The only thing I would say about monk fruit is monk fruit. You know what I mean? So we've all heard of like aphrodisiacs, right? That kind of get you in the mood, they're like libido enhancing. Well, monk fruit is an aphrodisiac, if you know what I mean. So it's great for monks. Side story, if anybody's into beer, I might be popping a bubble here. You know what else is an aphrodisiac that monks used to brew and women used to brew, because it's highly estrogenic, is hops. Number one ingredient in like the dude's beverage, it's like, see the guys like on the beach, like this kind of a thing, like all the women around them, and it's like, there was a phenomenon known as the brewer's droop that would happen. And if you see a lot of men that drink a lot of beer, they get those secondary sex characteristics of the man boobs. It's highly estrogenic. And there's nothing wrong with estrogen, but if you, especially for us guys, if you are definitely, decreasing in testosterone and increasing in estrogen, yeah, you can get, so there's down a place for beer. Okay, fats, sweeteners, that's the next category. Again, super big, super broad. You choose your own adventure. I'll give a couple of different ideas and examples. But again, the idea that the superfoods, right? You're building your smoothie. Okay, I need my yogurt in there, my blueberries in there, my protein powder, You're building for function, for feeling. From there, you can also add additional herbs in the form of herbal extracts. And then, very last, I'll put in a little pinch of salt. So let's make a drink. Who wants to make a drink? Who's going to be our volunteer? Who's going to step up. And one of the reasons I do this is, as I mentioned, right, if you're like, okay, well, he's written a book on it, he's been doing Elixir Bar for so many years. The other reason is a little more sneaky, because if it doesn't work out, I just blame you. No, just joking. We'll make this good. You'll be seen as, triumphant in your beverage making. Yeah, so no takers, hey? All right. Woo-hoo. Cool, okay. So, come on over here. So I do have, a recipe you can follow, but we can absolutely modify, we can play, we can add in different things that you feel inspired about. So I guess first and foremost, we need to make the biggest decision is, I was thinking about tonight, okay, we can either go chocolate or we can go matcha. Chocolate, matcha.
Do I get to pick?
You get to pick.
100% matcha.
All right, yeah, okay, excellent. Love matcha. I'll introduce and speak to that a little bit more as we get there. First thing we need is a blender. And in the recipes, and even the one here, this is just a little sheet that I have for, I think it's like 3 hours normally this class. So this is the highly condensed version, just a little recipe booklet. The first ingredient at the top is the liquid. So 12 ounces of your choice of hot tea or milk. But even though the recipe starts that way, I have a very important principle of liquid last. So we're going to save the liquid till the end. And the reason is, if you're like me, again, intuitive chefing, have you ever done this before? It's just like, okay, we're just going to
Pinch of this,
pinch of this, shake of that, right? One time I did it with a cayenne, right? It's like, and if it goes in and if there's liquid there, like you're committed. You're committed. The only solution is dilution. And it can be very intense. But if it's dry and liquid last, then you can kind of like, okay, let's separate all that cayenne that went in, that type of thing. You can modify. The other thing is, I don't know, for years I did smoothies and I always get like that ring around the blender. You blend it, but then all your powders that were sitting on top of your liquid, it's like, you get the spatula out. So if you do liquid last, you'll never deal with that again. So, all right, so we're going to start kind of from here down, and we'll start with the fats, and we could use coconut oil, you could use butter, you could use anything you want, you could even use like a milk, be it dairy milk, be it nut milk or oat milk or whatever you're inspired by. One thing that we got onto, I'm just gonna shift that there, is we, because in creating the Elixir bar and setting it up, it's like, okay, is it going to be, would you like dairy milk? And is that whole milk or is that skim milk? Or is that non-dairy milk? And is that oat milk or almond milk or soy milk? Or, all these options, and then thinking about like all the different like options and containers we'd have to have. Coconut butter was an absolute revelation in the sense that you can literally add a tablespoon to a drink, instant latte, instantly creams it. Or let's say you're making soups, you're making sauces, tablespoon, creams it, you're done. No packaging, no mess. And then the other thing too, that cold milk won't drop the temperature of your tea either. You can just add it right in. And so we're quite well known for our coconut butter. And it's the kind of thing that you can just eat right off the spoon, or you can make drinks with, use it in the kitchen, that kind of a thing. And so we're gonna triple. Let's triple the recipe. Yeah, okay, so like I said, a tablespoon, you can go ahead and just get 3 tablespoons, pop that in. And this is an ish as well. If you're really into coconut, you could use the coconut oil. Now the difference between coconut oil and coconut butter is that the oil, as the name suggests, is just the oil fraction. So imagine if we took almonds, we press almonds for the oil, we get almond oil on one end, on the other end we'll get like a flour. All the fiber left over. Same with coconut. Coconut oil, coconut flour. But if you just blend it all together, you'll get coconut butter. Or in the case of almonds, you get almond butter. It's all the fat and all the fiber. Right on.
How precise do you want me to be with this? Do you want me to like level it?
No, it's all an ish. Okay. Yeah, tablespoon-ish. Yeah. So it's going to, when using a coconut butter for a recipe, it's going to have a deeper, more rich, kind of creamy base. And if you're using oil, it would be lighter and thinner. All right, so that's our first one. Next one, this is optional. We'll let you decide if you want to add it in or not. It's called lucuma. and it's a fruit from South America. It's actually a relative of the avocado, and it's got this like creaminess with a little bit of sweetness. So it's very low glycemic, whole food, just dried and powdered, gold of the Incas, they used to say. So if you want, we can add some of that in. Again, it's going to add a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of like creaminess, but just from a nice natural fruit. And that one, we're not going to triple. If you decide to add it in, you can maybe just add in a tablespoon.
I'll do a poll. Should we add it in? Yes.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Just a little bit like that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Great. All right, so the next one is matcha. And so this here, oh, actually, no, let's go to this template here. So there's our fat sweetener. We add in a little bit of that lucuma, but we're gonna need just a little touch more of something else. Do you prefer honey? Do you prefer maple syrup? Do you want me to grab stevia or monk fruit or anything like that? Is there any vegans in the crowd?
About Sandra, yeah.
Honey's okay.
Honey's okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Just
cool.
a little bit of honey.
Yeah. So,
To taste?
yeah, to taste. So choose your own adventure. At the Elixir bar, we'll typically add just a little bit of water, so that has been diluted, so we can just like easy pump, 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 pump. And yeah, I would, yeah. We can always taste and modify, right?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Next, the quote unquote, the superfoods. Well, I think about flavor, function, feeling. I think about matcha. Matcha is actually, number one, it's super green. So we can kind of keep in that theme as we can look to other green foods, things like spirulina. Complete protein, 64 different vitamins, minerals. It's one of the most nutrient-dense algae on the planet that we can incorporate. If anybody's familiar with the idea of like a greens powder, right?
I take one every morning.
You do, hey?
Yeah, and
Awesome.
I do get that ring around it, so I'm going
Right.
to try and put the powder first.
Yeah, liquid last. Okay, right on. So here's one that we make in store. We'll just add a little bit of this, and I created it because I'd seen so many of the greens powders. You know what the top 2 ingredients in greens powders are? Of the average types of greens, like Greens Plus and whatever types of brands you can think of. Top 2 ingredients are apple pectin and soy lecithin. I don't know, those aren't green, are they? No, it's like they're cheap fillers, actually. So when you think about greens, we have leafy greens, we have algae, both the macroalgae as the microalgae, we have leaves. And so I kind of brought together all the different sources of greens, including grasses, like wheatgrass. We actually can't digest grass. Did you know that? Yeah, too fibrous. So if you are choosing a greens powder, or if you're doing like grass powders, you actually want them juiced and then dried, and then it's so much more bioavailable. So yeah, we got some of that in there. And this one here is not just greens. We've got nettles, like I mentioned, gynostemma, which is a herb, moringa, alfalfa, kamut grass, barley grass, oatgrass, and wheatgrass juice, chlorella, spirulina, and bull kelp. So there we are. If you didn't have your greens earlier, you'll get it in now. And next, we're going to add in the matcha.
Okay.
Now,
How much?
let's do 3 teaspoons. Yeah, for the total. Give everyone a nice feel, nice sensation. If you're familiar with the kind of the matcha buzz, it's stimulating, but it's actually very kind of calming and focusing at the same time. It's why the Zen monks would drink green tea and not coffee, right? Because it's stimulating as it is. It's also like, yeah, focusing, and it can put you in a nice little Zen state. The other interesting thing about matcha is there are what we call methylxanthines. So caffeine is a methylxanthine. It's a nervous system stimulant, right? You drink too much coffee, it's like, you get the jitters. Chocolate, people always ask all the time, doesn't chocolate have caffeine? It's got a little bit of caffeine, but its methylxanthine is called theobromine, and it's a cardiovascular system stimulant. In green tea, it's what we call theophylline, and it's actually a respiratory stimulant. So it's like, just breathe in the goodness. Yeah.
I stopped drinking coffee 4 years ago.
Amazing.
Green tea.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it doesn't work for everybody. I don't drink coffee because I'm better than you. No.
Same.
Right? from Coffee Club here. It's always this thing between my wife and I. She drinks coffee, I drink tea, and it's all good, whatever you're into. Yeah, just coffee doesn't work for me. But I love stimulants. I love green tea, I love matcha, I love yerba mate,
I
those
miss
types
it.
of things.
I just like even smelling coffee
Right?
makes me miss it.
I know, there's just
But
something
I'm
about it.
crazy on it, so.
Yeah. And then if you don't have it, like, you go crazy too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
none
When
of the
I
people.
quit, I had a breakdown on the side of the road because, like, I know it's true. Like, I really did, and that's how I knew I had an issue. I really needed to quit.
For sure.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, green tea, if you don't have it,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah.
You know, yerba mate.
It's also a cultural thing too. Like, I'm
Right.
half European, and we
Yeah.
have coffee like day, night, evening.
sure.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So whether you're into coffee or not, you can elevate your coffee. You know, choose the best, highest quality, and then we'll get into medicinal mushrooms. There's actually a multi-level marketing company. If you just sign up on my downline, no, I'm just joking. They claim to sell the healthiest coffee on earth. Oh, healthiest, and they have all these studies backing it up. This, that, and the next thing. You know what it is? All they do is they add reishi mushroom to it. Yeah, it's just the idea of adding mushrooms, adding herbs to your coffee. Wonderful, you know? Yeah, and it can come with all kinds of benefits. So it doesn't have to be, you know, on or off, black or white. Yeah, there's things you can add. So we've got the matcha, we've got our greens mix. We're gonna choose, speaking of mushrooms, lion's mane. Yeah, so when we talk about memory, focus, concentration, this is one of those things, right? Like, so another thing I can, you know, my dad, he's like, I don't believe in herbs. It's like, okay, you know, it's like, that's woo-woo, right? You know, and it's like, one of my friends, Robert Rogers, he's written a number of books. One of his books has, and it is all herbs, 1,000 scientific references in one book, you know, all about brain health. And so, whenever you heard that, it's like, oh, herbs, they have no science to it. And it's like, really? Yeah. So lion's mane, there's a famous study about, which, you know, done at the highest level, right? The gold standard of double-blind, placebo-controlled study out of Japan rather, where they took elderly people already displaying signs of cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, you know, different expressions of that. And so one group was on the placebo, other group we got the lion's mane. And after 2 weeks, and they went for 8 weeks, or maybe it was 12, I can't remember, but yeah, those that were taking the lion's mane scored significantly higher than those that were on the control. And it's one of those things, it's like people come in, they tell me all the time, it's like, yeah, lion's mane, like it really works. We tried grandma on it, you know, and it's like, now she's off, we gotta get her back on, you know? Like, so the medicinal mushrooms are amazing. You know, there's reishi, there's chaga. This is actually lion's mane. This is a dried version of what it looks like.
Cool.
And all the medicinal mushrooms are immunomodulating. What does that mean? It means if you have an underactive immune system, which is most of us, right? It's like, we can catch colds and get flus all the time. It can help bring it up. Or if you have an overactive immune system, like autoimmune, it can help bring it down. So it's regulating, it's modulating to what your body needs. So all the medicinal mushrooms are immunomodulating. And then each of them, beyond that, they can be antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, huge list of benefits. And then each one of them might have its own kind of speciality. And with lion's mane, it's all about brain health, nervous system. It stimulates what's called nerve growth factor. And there's all kinds of studies related to it. So that's what we're going to add in today. Yeah, we can add, a little goes a long way. And this is a massive jar, but we use a lot of them here in everything that we make. So 1/8 of a teaspoon, I mean, this is a dash. So you can go ahead, you can put in a couple dashes of the lion's mane.
Wow, even just smelling it, I can do math better.
There we are. Okay, and last we're gonna add a little pinch of salt. Salt, from a culinary perspective, helps like bring up, round out the flavors, but it's also gonna bring minerals, right? So salt got a bit of a bad rap because it was chemicals, sodium and chloride, a little bit of iodine thrown in, right? Versus natural rock salts, natural sea salts, which contain a spectrum of macro minerals, trace minerals. Yeah. All right, and then you get to choose what else. Are you inspired to add like peppermint, or you want to go rose, or I don't know, anything like that you can think of?
Peppermint's really good.
Peppermint
What? Peppermint?
Or spearmint.
or spearmint? Yeah.
Sure, yeah, let's
All
do
right.
spearmint.
Okay, cool. All right, let me grab the spearmint. I love that. So I've got some peppermint here, but I'm going to grab the spearmint. And when we talk about herbal extracts, essential oils. But wait a minute, have you ever heard that you're not supposed to consume essential oils? Yeah. Okay, we're going to break down a myth. As long as you get a good quality, do you know who the largest consumer of essential oils is as an industry? Febreze. No, that's we're talking natural. Yeah,
So yogis? I don't know. Like,
it's the candy industry,
oh, yeah.
like spearmint gum and cinnamon hearts. It's the essential oils they're using, and yet they tell us not to consume essential oils. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, Vivian grabbed us the spearmint.
Very potion-y looking bottle.
Right? Yeah. Okay, and that's the difference. There's peppermint, and that's spearmint. You still want to go spearmint?
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Spearmint's a great one. The other thing that you could use are certain extracts, like vanilla extract. You can get peppermint extracts. You can use hydrosols. So actually, hydrosol is how the essential oils are created. So that copper still over in the window there, so we create our own hydrosols and essential oils through steam distillation process. And you could add in this, for instance. I'll just like get a little spritz in your general direction. Peppermint,
Actually
right?
sounds really good.
Yeah, super refreshing.
Yeah.
If you're ever out on a hot day and you just want to like cool yourself off, that's amazing. You can also add those to beverages as well. So if we wanted to add in the peppermint, we could put in a little essential oil or the hydrosol, either
So
or.
I added the spearmint and then
And a little vanilla.
bit of vanilla.
Nice. Okay. All right. I think it's the moment of truth here.
Okay.
And so last,
Shake her up?
yeah,
Oh, water.
and we need water. And typically, when you're going to make water, and this is kind of a general hack for anything you make in the kitchen. And this is, again, from my world of like starting in nutrition and moving towards herbs, is I had this thing. It's like, okay, anytime a recipe calls for water, I'm going to add herbal tea.
What kind of tea?
What kind of tea? That's a great question. Flavor, function, feeling, right? Would I add peppermint tea to my quinoa I'm cooking? No, right? But I would add nettles, right? Or I'd add a reishi tea or something like that. So wherever it works in terms of a fit, yeah. So, but you can also just add water too.
Okay.
And these types of extracts, like, you know, the lion's mane that you added or the reishi mushroom, you know, 1/8 of a teaspoon, you can literally create instant tea. And let me just show you here. So here's reishi tea, which this is reishi mushroom, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the dry version or?
That's the dried version.
No, this is plastic.
No.
It's the mushroom?
Yeah, that's the real deal. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's exactly as you would find it in the forest. Yeah, its Latin name is Ganoderma. Gano means shiny, derma, skin, shiny skin, lucidum, and it's also known as the varnished conch. Yeah,
cool.
here's a very large one that was found on the west coast of Canada. Yeah, that one was grown, it was cultivated, but it's tough, it's woody, right? Like you can't actually chew that or digest it, so you have to extract it, and you either extract it through hot water or alcohol to be able to pull all the compounds out. And so typically you would get, you know, it in slices and then brew it into a tea. A lot of our customers love making teas. I don't know, anybody else like a tea master? You've always got something on the stove and mixing herbs and blends, and others like, no, never gonna make a tea. So what you can do is, let me just grab this here. You got a little hot water. And so when I say making tea, there's actually 3 different ways to make tea. You can steep it, which is like the tea bag, right? It just takes a couple of minutes. On the opposite end of that, no amount of steeping will actually create tea out of this. It's too tough, it's too woody, its fiber will not come out just in kind of like hot water. So you have to do what's called a decoction, which is a fancy herbal term for boil the shit out of it. Turn it up, simmer it, and let it kind of like on a low rolling boil, like just pull and extract all those properties. And then some genius came up with these extract powders.
Is it you?
No, it wasn't. No. Some genius, yeah. So literally, like eighth of a teaspoon, it's the equivalent of brewing up the tea for a couple hours. Yeah, and it'll just mix in nice, easily, dissolve in there, and we've got instant reishi tea.
Very cool. So what's the benefits or the function of reishi?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. All right, let's reference my
I gotta
buddy.
do something up here, you know?
Okay, so what I love about this book here, it's my friend Robert who wrote this book. I like to call it like the Bible of medicinal mushrooms. And he's got a really awesome appendix here in the back. So medicinal properties, it's all by Latin name, so it's a little hard to navigate. But if we go to reishi, Ganoderma lucidum, right? So there's all these different properties. So it's everything but that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So what is it? So it's not analgesic, but it is antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-tumor, antiviral, blood sugar balance, cardiovascular health, cholesterol health, hypertension, immune tonic, kidney tonic, liver tonic. It's not a sexual tonic, but we've got other herbs for that. Good for stress, not good for vision, but I mean, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. Cordyceps, that one is definitely a sexual tonic. So it is antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-tumor, antiviral, blood sugar balance, like on and on and on and on. Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All right, so we've already got our, we could brew up another type of a tea, add it, but we've already got our lion's mane and everything in there. I think we're feeling pretty good. Maybe the only last thing we might do is we're gonna add a little bit of pearl powder in there. Yeah, pearl. You can look at pearl from two perspectives. Again, multi-level marketing company out there, just sign up on my downline. No, they sell pearl as like a calcium supplement. Okay, cool. Chinese herbal medicine looks at pearl as a herb. They describe it as a Shen tonic, a beauty herb. So we're going to add a little bit of that in. Yeah, and then gut health. Lion's mane is actually really good for gut health, right? There's that connection between the gut, the brain, nervous system. All right, so for this one, I can't believe I'm going to do it, but it's just going to be straight up plain hot water. But we got plenty in there. We're gonna be in good hands with this beverage. I'm just gonna grab something to pour that into. So 12 ounces, that's kind of the average like serving per person. We said we're gonna triple the recipe to make sure it spreads all around. So I'll just fill that up to like 36-ish ounces, and then we're ready to blend. All right, look at that greenness. Oh, I can smell the mint coming off there already. Okay, other side is the ounces. Okay, where are we here? Well, that's only 24, so we got to go another couple of cups there. All right. Okay, we'll put that on. We'll give it a blend. Okay. It is, yeah. So that's obviously coming from the greens here, which is it provides a bit more of a darker green. But this matcha, are you a bit of a matcha connoisseur?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Is it ceremonial grade?
It is beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So there's now 2 companies in Canada that actually micro mill their own matcha. So these guys, they're based out of Victoria. They're called Jaga Silk. Husband and wife team. The wife is Japanese. They've got connections to Japan, where you've heard of like, single origin, estate grown. It's like they're connected to each of the estates that grow the matcha. They bring in what they call the tencha, which is the unmilled matcha, and then they fresh mill it. So this is like the champagne of matchas in that sense, that it's direct from the farmer, milled here in Canada, packaged up, and it's got a vibrancy and a potency and a greenness to it like unlike anything. So, okay, we'll let you kind of take in the first just whiffs of that.
Oh, it's actually really nice, guys.
Yeah, all right. Okay, we'll have a taste. Maybe you might want more sweetness. Maybe you might want more mint. Your reputation is on the line here, so. All right, you and I will just enjoy a quick little sip. Make sure it's we're in the ballpark. I'll say that you did undersweeten compared to what we would normally do, so that might be
too much sweet.
Yeah, but that's great.
Okay, we need a little bit more sweetness.
Okay, yeah. Don't want to say, but yeah. All right. Okay, we'll add a little bit more honey in there for that. Let's try it there, and then we can decide once we got a little more sweet.
It's like warm.
Yeah.
It's giving nourishment.
Yes. There we are. All right. Integrate that in. Make some room for the fresh batch here. And then if you're happy with the mint level as well.
I like it.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Yeah. It's different. Yeah, it's amazing.
And
way.
everybody else better too.
All right. Okay. Well, wonderful. We'll give you a round of applause first. We'll try that. All right. And we'll get Vivian and Emily to pour this up.
Take it around already?
Yeah. You can just pour and serve. Yeah, so this template, again, you get to choose the water, the herb, the fat, the sweetener, anything that you want to add in that template. A little intuitive chefing for flavor, for function, for feeling. They can be warm. They can be cold. We'll often do these drinks iced. Yeah, you got a question?
I have a question. So
Yeah.
I like to make fruit smoothies in the morning. Can you add lion's mane to them, or is that going to taste weird?
Really good question. So that is initially, because again, I was so entrenched in the nutritional world, doing these types of smoothies, as once the herbs came in, it was either creating a herbal tea as the base instead of water and building the smoothies with a herbal base. And then also, you're right, adding in these types of extracts just into fruit smoothies. Yeah, lion's mane. Why not? Absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you have any matcha tips? I have been wanting to make matcha at home, and I would get some of that. But do you have any tips on how to prepare it?
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way. There are definitely a lot of what I affectionately call tea snobs, and for good reason. These people really know their teas, so they'll weigh it right down to the gram, 2 grams and this many mils of water at this temperature of water, specifically. So you can go to that level and to that extreme, but otherwise I think it's the main thing is just about mixing it really well. So if you've got one of those matcha bowls where you can whisk it, or if it's just in a blender or one of those hand ones, just make sure it's nicely whisked. And then it's about customizing it. I love the experience of just a pure matcha just in hot water. But my favorite is more in kind of a latte type of context. I like a creaminess, I like a little bit of sweetness, so it's just customizing it that way for yourself. Yeah. All right. So if you wanted to do these beverages cold, what you would do is same process, same ingredients, everything, but you just add a little bit of hot water initially, you blend it up, and then you add ice. And you can either blend it where it's thick, where it's spoonable, or it could be poured over ice. Yeah. All right. So we're getting the first sips in. We'll see how the tastes are.
In terms of cold, when you're steeping an herb in something cold, cold water versus hot water, are there certain ones that you want to?
Yeah. Oh, what a great question. Okay, so the nuances of steeping herbs. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Certain herbs can steep very well in cold water, like hibiscus is a really good example. As soon as it hits the water, like it just starts changing color because it's a flower, or leaves like peppermint or rose petals can steep into cold water. But then there's a lot, anything that's tough and woody. So if it's light and delicate and aromatic, it can be cold to warm. Or if it's tough, woody like roots and barks, then it's got to be that decoction process.
Okay, and then is there anything kind of like steaming in hot water, like use any of the
Oh, really good question. Yeah, it can. And so like those volatile aromatics like peppermint, like it would just be lost in the steam. Yeah, but anything that you are kind of like doing as a decoction, like these mushrooms, you're not losing anything. You actually need the heat to pull and extract it out. Yeah, cool.
Decoration pieces
Yeah.
from here.
Yeah.
From years ago.
They're still good.
They're still good?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, because they
They're
are.
just sitting in that.
Yeah, brew them up. Time to get them in the pot.
I
Yeah.
got the extract too, because it is a bit of a pain in the butt.
No, totally. Yeah, it's easy, it's quick. Yeah. All right. Okay, well let's actually just conclude the class. Let's kind of keep with the flow, the energy of just like mixing, mingling. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for being here. Yeah, for sure. And if you got any other questions, happy to answer, as well as Vivian and Julie and Lindsay and everybody else that is hanging out this evening.
What kind of salt is that?
Oh, so this is actually a Vancouver Island sea salt. Yeah, so it's from Vancouver Island, like family business from the Pacific Coast. Yeah, it's a beautiful salt. Was it? Okay, well, all the credit, yeah. Right on, well, thank you.
If you've opened up your gift bag, there is a coupon for 1 free elixir. You can either use it tonight or come back and use it another time. And also, everything in the store tonight is 10% off tonight only. If you would like to grab a drink and shop around. Yes, I was going to ask that. Yeah, feel free to explore a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Thank you,
give a big hand to Lindsay for organizing. Yeah, thank you.